Two guys in their early 50s with one dream: to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Pilgrims, how good is it? I am back, joined not only by one person but by two. We've got Andy Walker and Matty Woodbridge back for a second crack at the Missing Links Golf Show. Gentlemen, wonderful to see you. Andy, we'll throw to you first so that you don't talk over the top of each other. Wonderful to see you.
G'day, Mr. Hinks. How are you?
Tops. I'm excited.
That's good. Yeah.
I'm very excited. And Matty, welcome back. Good to see you again.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm not sure why you brought me back, but look, I'm humbled nevertheless. Yeah.
Well, a little bit like Lazarus, we brought him back. But anyhow, no, there's a reason. And I think you know this. There is a reason why we've brought you back, because Pilgrims, there's been an incredibly exciting development that has taken place in the land of the Missing Links Golf Show. And it is this. You may recall from previous episodes that I have been struggling to find a reliable golf coach in the central west of New South Wales. It's not always easy in regional centres. So anyway, after seeing Matt play a couple of rounds and absolutely smash it around the golf course, and then after hearing the story of his golf career, I gave him a call and I said, Matt, would you like to take me on as a student and become my coach? I mentioned this to Andy Walker. He thought it was a great idea, so that's where we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Woodbridge, golf coach extraordinaire. Welcome back to the Missing Links Golf Show.
Would you call yourself a guinea pig, Steve?
Yeah, maybe a capybara. I'm a particularly large guinea pig.
I want to premise this with, this is the first time I'm really, formally coaching anyone as well. So I think he's as big a guinea pig as what I am, to be fair. So, I'm expecting some very aggressive feedback. I'm not aggressive, but yeah, let's hope it won't be
aggressive. It won't be aggressive. No. It's very, very cool. We were having a chat before, and I think it's fair to say I was super impressed by how prepared that you came. We have had our first coaching session, training session, practice session, whatever you want to call it. We're not calling it a lesson.
You're not going to call it a lesson?
We're not calling it a lesson. We don't do lessons. No.
We're not at school?
No, we're not at school. I don't deal well with, as we established, I don't deal well with that authority figure relationship. So that teacher-student lesson scenario is not for me.
So you wouldn't call it like a period, like period one, you go to like short game.
Wondering
period
where
two.
you were going with that. No.
Yeah, no, not your first line of thought, but yeah. Given my young fella's now in high school, year 7, he's dealing with all the different sort of subjects in periods, and got to go here at this time and here at the other time for lesson upon lesson, and
No.
Shall I throw the hall pass and the toilet passes away then? So, you can feel free to go to the toilet whenever you like, Steve.
I'll be wearing the High Performance Centre hallway monitor sash to the next session. No.
So if Steve needs to ask a question, Matt, does he have to put his hand up?
100%. Yeah. I expect the student to act like a student.
And Mr. Woodbridge.
Hang on.
That's right.
Hang on, we can do that.
Woodbridge.
There we go. My hand is up.
Sir.
No. Very good. But in all seriousness, it was really, really good. It was really cool because I thought your approach, Matt, and I wouldn't mind spending a little bit of time just on getting inside your mind with how you've kind of come at this conundrum. You've obviously seen me play a couple of rounds. You've known that, I may not possess the perfect golf swing. It's fair to say. A couple of glitches here and there. So you've known what you're in for, but you've taken what I think is a really, really good approach in terms of looking at everything, not just from the golf swing, but actually seeking to kind of dive a little bit deeper. And interested in maybe hearing your thoughts of how you've decided to go about tackling this problem. I refer to myself as a problem right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've set it up very well for me to fail now because, you've given me a lot of praise. So hopefully I live up to the hype. But what I sort of started to unpack even with myself was what if you were to put a package together, what makes up a golfer, a good golfer? And it's not just, swing on the right path. It's not just um, having, going out there and smacking the ball and chipping lots and going to the range and all that sort of stuff. I think it's a culmination of a lot of different things. You've got things like course management and, practice techniques and um, health and fitness and, um, goal setting and all those sort of things that come into being able to put your best foot forward whenever you step onto a golf course. So what I started to do for Steve, for the listeners, is put together almost like a 7-step plan of us just unpacking everything to start with. So really, the intro week one that we did last night was, let's discuss where you want to get to. Let's try to figure out, what makes you tick. What your goal setting is, what your physical assessment's like. Do you have any injuries? How's your flexibility? What are your misses like? What's an area of your game, that you'd say if you were to pick one thing you wanted to fix, right then and there, if you could just snap your fingers, what would that be? And I sort of, started off the night with a few of those questions, Steve. And what did you think about that? Because I'm as keen to have some feedback from all of that as, I think you are, to try to get a bit better at golf too. So
I thought it was exactly what I'd been looking for and not being able to get. Like we're kind of chatting before in terms of so many golf coaches that go to and, like you pay by the lesson or you pay by the hour and you essentially turn up and they don't really know much about who you are, nor really care generally to get to know that much about it. Like might say, what do you want to work on today? And you go, oh, I've been slicing my driver or I've been fatting my irons or whatever. And so they'll try and diagnose that, give you a few tips. You go away and maybe you practice it, maybe you don't, and hopefully it makes a difference. And for a lot of people, it probably does for a little while, and then it doesn't really because you haven't maybe talked about the root causes. What I'd always been searching for is, in a coach, is someone that was going to go, all right, this is going to be a long-term prospect. Like we're not going to fix this in one session. This is something that we need a plan to work on. It might be 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, whatever the case may be. But we've got an end goal that we want to get to, and we're going to have a program that we're going to work through. And it's the first time that I've had a conversation with a coach before just going in to hit balls and identify a technical issue, where we've talked about where you want to get to. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was harder as well than I expected from some perspectives, because to articulate what goals do you want to achieve, to actually articulate that beyond, I just want to get better, I want to lower my handicap, or I want to shoot lower scores, like to actually try and articulate that isn't necessarily easy. And I think a lot of people probably would struggle with that. And where we ended up getting to was, things around, I wanted to, I'm trying to remember exactly what I said as well, but I was talking about I wanted to understand my golf swing better. I wanted to understand what I'm doing and the impact that that's having. I want to get better at being able to diagnose myself, because I've then increased my knowledge about my golf swing and what a golf swing should look like, because I'm kind of fighting in the dark a little bit at the moment. But the one that was hardest to answer was when you said, identify like the one area in your game, if you could click your fingers, that you want to fix. And I think I came up with 3, which was my driver, my irons, and my short game.
Yeah. I've got it written all down here, actually, because I was taking notes as he said it, because I knew I'd forget it as well.
Yeah.
And 100%. I was like, right, I pick one thing that if I could snap my fingers and wave a magic wand, that I could fix in your golf game, what would it be? And he goes, oh, hang on, that's really, really hard. I don't know how to pick one, because it's the whole, it's all of these things.
It's the whole game.
And that's a pretty cool admission in itself, I think, because obviously, I think if you really analyze your game down to the nitty gritty, there are specific things or specific misses that probably do grind your gears more than others. But because you're looking for, and it told me a lot more about your psyche, because you're looking for a more rounded golf game and a more long-term approach, I feel like, Steve, you've admitted to yourself that things won't be fixed overnight. You can't just snap your fingers and fix one thing in your whole game. And you're committed to the long-term, relationship of having a coach that can start putting you in a better place, not only with your swing, but in shot type, shot approach, the whole facet of the game, to be able to make your whole game better, more rounded and better.
Yeah, and I think without jumping the gun, but like later when we actually got around to hitting golf balls and you gave me a couple of things to work on and I was trying to put that into practice, I think at the time I said something like, this feels so bad, we must be doing something right.
Yeah, we must be doing something right. That's right. Yeah.
Did that process, Steve, to just to go through that and give your game some thought? Was that the hard part of it? Is that something that you'd sort of ever done on a sort of any sort of deep level, or has it always been something that's been pretty surface level of, oh yeah, I'd love to be like a single figure handicapper, I'd love to, strike my irons better or have a better mental approach? What was that like?
I think that the times that I've done it, to be honest with you, and you know this because you've been involved in it, has been when we've done our game reviews on this show and, where we've dived into things. And I think for me as well, what's interesting about it is that sometimes when we've started doing that, we've identified that the bits that we think are the weaknesses when we dive into the data with the ShotScope and Arcos data, it's actually not always true. And the bits that you think are where you struggle, sometimes, according to the data, is actually maybe the stronger part of your game. And so being able to look at it honestly rather than look at it and go, I hit 3 bad iron shots last weekend, so therefore that's the big catastrophe. Being able to zoom out and take that broader view sometimes is difficult. But I think as well, there's a difference between feeling something and being able to articulate it and being able to explain it. And as soon as you're forced to put words to it, it makes it a little bit more difficult to actually get a coherent thought out of the feelings. So forcing you to do that, there's value in forcing you to do that and to explain to another human where your game's at and what you want to work on, rather than just having, a bunch of those thoughts going around in your head where you actually think that you really got a clear mindset, but you don't if you can't actually articulate it to another person. So I thought that was quite interesting. The hardest part was actually defining the one bit, because I looked at it and I went, there are genuinely 3 bits to my game which are frustrating at the moment. One is with the driver. You would remember, Andy, that 6 months or so ago, I was hitting my driver really consistently, and I think it was when you came out and caddied in the Macquarie Cup, and it was probably at its best at the time, and I was hitting it confidently, and I had confidence when I stepped on the tee that I was going to be able to aim it and hit it pretty close to where I was aiming it most of the time. And I told Maddie a story about this as well, that after doing that for about 6 months, I remember having a thought process going, it'd be a real shame if this feeling went away.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, it did. And I've really been fighting for probably close to 12 months to get that back. And it's been kind of inconsistent at best. But I've learned a fair bit about the feelings of it in the process. So there's that. And I said one of the things is to get that reliability of driver back. We also talked about gaining a little bit of distance and turning my quarter swing into at least a half swing. It would be good. Then the other one, which ended up being the main one, was misstriking or toe striking my irons. And that really became the main one. And then the last one was around confidence around chipping and pitching, and having issues of feeling of getting a little bit wristy. I think we're going to get to that in the future, but at the moment it's really that ball striking around, avoiding the toe striking the irons, where we got into. But they were the three things, and it was very hard to select one of the three. I could have actually gone in a number of different ways there.
But I also think that it's very different to identify an issue, and I think we've actually got quite good at identifying what the challenges we've got in our game, and you can look at whether it be Arcos, shot scope, at that strokes gain data, or maybe in our mental approach where where we've let ourselves down in that mental approach. But to take that information and then I guess make meaningful changes to your game, that's where, pardon the pun, the missing links are, right?
Well played.
Almost like we planned it, yeah.
And that's where I think that Matt is going to make a really big difference to your game. And I know that we've had this conversation before about engaging a coach in the longer term to be able to take what we've identified and the data that we've got and be able to do something with it, to be able to put into practice a game plan for the next 12 months, 18 months for that for that golf game improvement. And I know, obviously, I'm doing it at the moment with Andrew Dodd up at Charlestown, and I think it's great that you've engaged Matt to be able to do it for yourself as well.
I just picked up on one thing while you were talking there, Andy, and I totally agree that you guys, like, I mean, I'm in IT, right? And I go around to Steve's place, and it's an absolute amazing amount of technology that he's got going on there with different apps that he's got for his phone, plus obviously his high performance center stuff, but plus you got shot scope, and you're able to really unpack you guys have been to this putting lab that we shared in the Facebook group the other day, and you've got a tremendous amount of data to back up your comments about, okay, this is where my misses are, this is where I'm doing okay, or whatever the case may be. What I found interesting with Steve is I think that he may have had a preconceived idea going into the lesson about where he thought he might have been going wrong. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Steve.
For sure, yeah.
You had a bit of a, oh my God, am I really doing that sort of moment?
Yeah.
Because I made a couple of adjustments, like, standing a little bit too close to the ball, and then, obviously feet and shoulders not square to the target. All of a sudden made some adjustments, and Steve felt completely out of his depth and very uncomfortable hitting shots, plus obviously trying to extend his swing in the same sort of, work stream. And we'll get onto that a little bit later, where you can be doing too much all at once. But yeah, I think, Steve, your comments here, you found it quite uncomfortable at the start, but the results, from the data that you got after that with the high performance center projector and stuff like that, showing the ball different flights, different lengths, different distances, showed you that maybe there was a bit of truth to the alignment sort of stuff.
I feel there may have been, to fill Andy Walker in on this, and the Pilgrims, of course. So we were hitting 5 irons into the net into the screen in the high performance center, and to begin with, just hit a few to warm up and whatnot, and then I was just hitting them normally the way I always would, and my carry distance, I was pretty much almost every shot was hitting a leaky fade. And my carry distance was at around about 150 metres with the 5 iron, which was pretty ordinary. So anyway, we'll talk about what the tweaks were in a minute. Matty made some changes, some suggestions, which I looked at him and thought he was an idiot because it was completely wrong, and it's exactly not what I should have been doing.
How did you feel about that, mate?
Oh, look, he didn't articulate it. So
I didn't say
okay. obviously it was all
this is internal,
internalized by
internal
Steve,
monologue, internal monologue, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like,
but the looks on his face, you could read it in his face. Yeah,
I'm
anyway.
like, you're kidding me. I'm like, there's no way that's the right thing to do. Don't be ridiculous. It's just not going to work. Crazy. Put that into play. Carry distance went to 170 to 175 metres.
Yep.
So he may have been onto something.
Yeah. But it's really interesting the difference between trying to self-diagnose.
There's no chance. There's no chance.
And to have someone who knows what they're looking at to be able to go, hey, this is what you're doing. And you go, well, that's not how it feels. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing that. But that external person to be able to go, no, that's what you're doing, and to be able to make the changes that are necessary to put you in the positions that you need to be able to, especially from 150 to 170 to 175, that's a huge change just with one club.
It was insane.
Yeah.
And at that point, obviously my trust meter went up substantially.
It's not, I just want to, for the Pilgrims, people are probably at home or wherever they're listening to this, sitting there and thinking, but hang on, he just made his swing a little bit longer and he hit it a bit harder. Steve happened to have a bit of a tendency to really drop his hands into his body a lot. And I tried to get him to extend a little bit further out. And he was like, mate, I feel like I'm bending over frontwards and almost about to fall over frontwards and reaching out to it like you're trying to pass me something across a table. It felt very foreign to him. But, it seemed to just realign him a little bit better, that and pulling the shoulder back and getting his shoulders aligned with his feet. He was hitting it, I think, the ball a lot more solid, and not really swinging it that overly much harder, because I think at the start of the session he had that bit of a obviously aggressive sort of tendency to want to smack the cover off the ball, and it is a hard thing, I think, for any golfer to slow down a little bit in their swing. Like, we had a conversation last night, how the hell does Cam Young do that? How does he pause at the top?
I don't get it.
It's just, I find that dumbfounding that he hits the ball so well after having that much of a long pause. That would just wreck my whole entire tempo. But
Well, apparently that was a swing drill that his dad made him do, and it worked so well that he just implemented it into his game, which is just like, it's insane.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to get at there is, I think when you're trying to learn off somebody, it's as much about the coach trying to tell you what to do as you being acceptive to learning. So when someone who has a little bit of knowledge does give you a little bit of a tidbit, or a bit of a tip, it's probably worth giving it a real red hot crack, even though it might feel completely foreign, it might feel odd, you might for the first 2 weeks hit the board terrible. The longer you do it, the more your body will get used to doing it, and you'll find it'll settle into a more adaptive sort of, feeling comfortable sort of situation. So like they always say, trust the process.
But those fundamental things, I think, you can, and as you're saying, like if I understood that correctly, Steve was dropping his hands too quickly and getting too close to his body, and to be able to get the hands out further away from your body does create that centrifugal force, which then creates club head speed. So you're actually not trying any harder to hit the ball, yet your club head speed is dramatically increasing. So those fundamental technical things can make massive differences. So I can absolutely believe the 150 to 170. It's just getting a couple of technical things a bit more correct.
Andy, you've done so well to describe it there, mate. I couldn't articulate that, to be fair. It is quite hard to explain under technical terms for people to understand, listening to this. But yeah, that's exactly it, mate. Well done.
Were you reading something there, Andy Walker?
Yeah, you just quickly chat GPT.
Yeah, chat GPT. Yeah.
So
yeah,
no,
yeah. And I did come into this evening wanting to put centrifugal force into our conversation.
If you
it's always been something that I've wanted to throw in to an episode. You know, a bit like velocity. You know, I just like there are certain terms that I'm looking to just put in at certain times.
If you can explain the difference to the pilgrims between centrifugal or centrifugal, if that's how you like to pronounce it, some parts of the world they do, and centripetal force.
Ooh. Just let me get ChatGPT.
If you can explain the difference between those two, because they're both related. They're both related forces. Anyway, whilst Andy works on that, I do want to kind of explain a little bit of what it was that Matty was talking about with the position of the hands, right? So in my setup, when I'm addressing the ball, Matt identified that I was crowding the ball. So I was standing a little too close, and my hands as a result were tucked in too close to my legs and my body. So what was interesting is that he got me to address the ball, hadn't said what he was going to change, got me to address the ball, and then with the alignment, no, it wasn't the alignment stick because that's when we did shoulders, but when he was talking about the feet, I thought he was going to suggest that I should stand slightly closer to the ball. That's where I thought it was going. And the reason that I thought that was because I was toe striking, right? So I'm obviously, if I move an inch closer to the ball, then it'll be, in the center of the club face or towards the hosel. But no.
And there's a certain amount of logic to that.
Of course there is.
There is, yeah, for sure.
Except for the fact that we're playing a game of opposites.
Exactly. And that's exactly what golf is a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And so Matt says, shuffle back, move away. And I'm like, you're kidding me. This is crazy talk. And that's where we had the conversation. I'm going, I literally feel like I'm reaching over the table to try and plonk. I honestly felt like I was standing there like Bryson DeChambeau with my arm and shaft of my club in a straight line to reach the ball. That's what it felt like. So we had that conversation. Matty took a photo and he goes, come have a look at this. And he showed me the photo of what I look like in the setup. Then he goes, how does that look? And I went, that actually looks really good.
So when you first started, I think I asked the question, have you always sort of, sat your hands down there quite close to yourself? And you said, yeah, I've never really thought about it before. But when and I've discovered this too as I get older and get more damaged from having accidents and stuff like that, my back gets worse, and my tendency to stand becomes higher and higher through a golf shot, right? So as we know, when we're coming through spinning out of a golf shot, it's very, very what would you call it, uncomfortable, or it stretches your body a lot to keep down on the ball, through the ball, and twist your body. You're sort of leaning your left, in Steve's case, because he's a lefty, he's leaning his left shoulder through the ball, keeping it low, right? And that's very hard to do as you get older. So the tendency to stand becomes higher and higher. So I thought maybe he's actually standing on the ball. That's why he's toe striking it. And he, over time, has gotten closer and closer and closer to the ball. And now he's so close that he's getting those fades or those slices because he's having to be so steep with it. Maybe if I pull him out from the ball and try to get him to swing around a little bit further, that might fix him up. And it turns out it fixed a few things. I think his alignment of his shoulders was probably the main key one to straighten his ball striking. But I think the more he practices getting a little bit further away from the ball, the better off you'll find those toe misses will probably disappear, hopefully anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look, I mean, standing too close to the ball as well, you just get in your own way. Like your hands just don't have and arms just don't have enough room to be able to do what they need to do, and you can't clear your hips properly, and it's just all becomes a bit of a jumble and a bit of a mess.
For sure. I think it becomes a lot harder to time the ball. And you really do rely then on your feel of your hands to square yourself up right at impact. So, it's harder. And we talk about percentages in golf. You want to put a swing on the ball that has the highest percentage chance of you hitting a good shot. So I think it all starts with that initial setup. So the way that just to share with the Pilgrims, we're not doing anything that's totally technologically advanced. All I was doing was standing behind him with an iPhone, putting it in slow-mo, taking a few videos, and then sort of, after the videos, we just discussed it a bit. And I said, okay, see here, see there, where your shoulders are here, maybe try this, maybe try that. And tried a few times, and hey presto, we started hitting some pretty decent shots, to be fair, Steve. It was awesome to see.
It was super surprising, right? Like that change in itself made a big difference. But I do think, realistically, I do think the one that made the biggest change and felt even stranger physically in the stance was the shoulder alignment piece. So, so essentially, you can explain it better than I can, but basically my feet were square to the target and my shoulders were, in addressing the ball, were open to the target.
So pointed right. Yeah. So exactly, Steve. So, sorry, go ahead. You're right.
No, I was going to ask you. So, Steve, do you use alignment rods like when you're practicing in the high performance center?
Yeah, quite regularly I do, and that'll ensure that my feet are square to the target, which they were, and that's all well and good, and that wasn't the issue. But the issue was that the upper part of my body was not matching alignment at setup to the lower half of my body.
Yep.
And that was, typically for any golfer, that's brought about by the fact that your dominant hand, being that in Steve's case, because he's a left-hander, his left hand is on the bottom, right? So our tendency when we stand over a ball, if your left hand is on the bottom, is for your shoulders to want to be facing more towards the target because it's comfier, right? If you stand there and try to put your left arm below, like your left hand below your right arm, it's actually quite difficult to turn back and have your shoulders square to your hips. So you can unknowingly do that just over time. Because your body's wanting to become more and more comfortable in address to the ball. And then all of a sudden, you've misaligned yourself and probably no one's pointed it out to you. So, I'm really happy that we spotted that with Steve, and hopefully bringing that shoulder back will square a lot of his shots up in the future.
Yeah, and it definitely addressed the fade, like that was turning into a much straighter ball flight, which was good. I think sometimes as well, though, with the launch monitor and inside, if you don't have it perfectly square to the target line also, then it can skew your ball flight a bit. But it obviously made a difference. I just don't want it to go too far. That's the thing, and start hitting big snap hooks, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen in a hurry. So
that's not fun. I can I can definitely say that snap hooks are not the best place to be.
Yeah. What was interesting, though, is so when I'm standing there addressing the ball and, say hitting a 5-iron, the ball's in the, sort of forward half of your stance behind, kind of just inside your front heel, club down behind it. The way that Matt was getting me to square my shoulders, I actually felt like my shoulders were pointing towards, like in line with my back foot. I felt I was that closed. Apparently I wasn't. And that's that whole feel versus real type scenario that we've talked about before. But that's how closed it felt to get it square at address, which I thought was super interesting.
Yep. So, Matt, just coming back a little bit to I was just while Steve was talking, I was just sort of having a little bit of a think about sort of your approach and the philosophy behind it. Because I mean, golf's such a broad game, right? And you know, and in my experience, a lot of the time you go to see your golf coach. You know, you stand on the range. You might sort of half hour to an hour. They'll give you a couple of sort of swing tips. You know, off you go. You might or might not practice that and come back in a month's time, and not a lot really has changed. But then you've got, you know, areas of, you know, whether it be sort of short game, putting, course management, mental approach. It's such a broad, I guess, a broad game and a broad approach and plan to be able to put together for someone for a comprehensive game improvement plan. So how do you have a particular order in which you will approach it, or is it something that in consultation with Steve and depending on how he goes, you'll get to the different areas of his game at the right time?
Probably a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. So obviously the time of year and the seasons dictate a little bit of what we do. Being that the days are short, and you know, both Steve and myself work long hours in our work. It makes it difficult to get out on the golf course and practice on grass. So I am a firm believer that chipping is almost useless in a golf simulator. Whilst you can practice your distance control, what happens to the ball when it hits the ground and everything like that can be vastly different from what it shows you in a high performance center or a simulator. So I'm going to leave that until it warms up a bit and we have, you know, daylight saving back where we can practice around a green. In terms of the rest of it, putting and whatnot, 100%. There is some really fundamentals that you can, you know, that I've learned over my years with putting, but putting is very field focused. So, I mean, everything that you guys have done in terms of, you know, getting your putting technology and putting techniques and stats down pat, I mean, I can't match that whatsoever. Reading greens and stuff like that is, I think it just takes time to understand. There are some obviously, you know, some things you need to take into account when thinking about putting, like, you know, the type of the grass and where the sun is and all those sort of things. But apart from that, I do think that putting is something that you'll work on when you go play those rounds. So I think we covered this in my last session too, when I was on here, my last time I was on the podcast. I'm a firm believer that, you know, the best practice is having rounds, is playing the real thing, because you just get so much variety. So my intent was, as much as we can for the moment with the time that we've got, focus on, you know, what we can do inside of a sim. And I think the predominant thing that you can do inside of a sim is really get those fundamentals of, you know, address, hands, swing, plane, all those sort of, you know, full hitting a shot sort of techniques down pat. And then, as I said, when we get into the warmer months and longer days, when we can have some time out on the golf course in the afternoons, we'll get into those little, you know, little chip shots and bunker shots and flop shots and pitch and runs and all those sort of things.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. And, you know, to test it out, Andy Walker, you're not aware of this, but we have decided to, you know, utilise a little bit of flexibility and book into next week's Wednesday comp out at Royal Dubbo.
Excellent.
So
nice.
So that's going to be interesting, right? Because I do intend to view this, even though we're going to play in a comp, I do intend to view this as a round to practice these swing changes and to disassociate from the score as much as is humanly possible. Obviously, you want to score well if you possibly can, but the main focus, the success or failure on that round, is actually sticking to the changes and seeing how they feel out in the real world, because it's, you know, obviously one thing to do it inside, it's very different to do it on on grass and in a game format where you're actually aiming at targets rather than just trying to make a swing. So that's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's really good to keep in mind, having that longer term focus rather than going, okay, well, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I want to just have a couple of fixes in my swing to be able to shoot 2 or 3 shots better, because those short term fixes may not necessarily be best for your long term game improvement plan. So yeah, and that's something that I've had to, I guess, come to terms with in my improvement, in that, back in sort of April, May, I felt like I was getting my ball striking to a point where it was really good, but then I changed my approach and now I'm finding that's not working. So I've got to go back to the original approach and just be more patient with what my swing changes are and the time it's going to take to be able to, I guess, groove those into my game and get my game to where it wants to be.
It's the hardest thing, right? Like, to go, how long is it going to take to work? How long is it going to take to feel athletic? As opposed to really mechanical, and have that degree of comfort. The other thing as well, which I'm kind of curious about at the moment, is it was one thing to stand in the high performance center with you standing behind me, address the ball, and you go, no, move a bit more this way, a little bit more this way, no, still a little bit further up, and yep, good, go for it. That was fine. So I went back in the high performance center this afternoon after work before jumping on the mics tonight to hit a few more and have a play around with it. And the curious thing is, I don't 100% know if I've got it all right whilst I'm standing there on my own, right? I did manage to carry the 5-iron pretty consistently at around 170, so that was good. Took driver for a few swings with driver.
Oh.
And it was relatively all over the place.
Okay.
But that's okay because it's just trying to build a different feel. So I'm interested just to continue, obviously, to try and do the right things to get a bit of feel, because I think part of it is when you're still feeling a bit mechanical, you lose a little bit of that athleticism with kind of controlling the club head and some of that stuff too. So I'm interested to see how that goes over the next few days, and just how that feels over the next few days. So stay tuned on that one.
It's probably really important to remember golf is constant adjustment, right? So your swing is going to be completely different day 2 as opposed to day 1. When I say completely different, I mean the fundamentals are going to stay the same, but the way you feel, the way that whether or not you've had a bad sleep or a good sleep the night before can even, simply adjust your swing. A slight twinge in your back or a twinge in your elbow or whatever the case may be, it can make you do things that you probably never brought into your game before. So it's really important to remember that I think that what the goal that I see would be is being able to learn what it feels like when you put your body in the right position. So I think that muscle memory, developing that is crucial to being able to self-diagnose on a golf course and bring yourself back to the point where and you can feel that you're aligned and you're swinging on the right paths and all that sort of thing, and then get that confidence back up even after you've hit a bad shot because you've readjusted to be able to then go forward and hit a good shot for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, all true. I think another thing as well is being a little bit mindful of how many balls you want to hit in a practice session too. Because I think it can get to a point where you go too far and then whether that's because you're fatiguing or you just start doing the wrong things and then the quality drops off. And there's probably a sweet spot of time or number of balls, which is different for everyone and, ages and fitness levels. And and physical levels, but there's probably a point where the training starts to become counterproductive when you stay too long at it as well. So I think that's just something, and I feel like I kind of maybe did a little bit of that this afternoon.
Yeah, you got to remember in a golf game, excuse me, you're going to hit it and then either jump in a golf cart or walk to where your next ball is. So that gives you time to recover a little bit from the shot. But when you're practicing, you don't. You hit ball after ball, and sometimes you rush yourself into the next shot because you're like, oh, I want to quickly, I've remembered how, what I did wrong there, and I want to quickly try to fix it. And all of a sudden you've hit 10 balls in the space of a minute. And, that can fatigue you very, very quickly. And then once again, give you a false impression of, how you've adjusted or what you've adjusted, because all of a sudden, your back's tired or your arms are tired or whatever the case may be. So, just remember when you are practicing, do take your time, hit a ball, realize where it's gone, think about what could have happened to make it go that way, or, and then readjust and, just take your time hitting the next one.
The other thing that I've been reading and listening to, I quite like the whole sort of self-improvement style of books, and I've been reading about sort of talent and the way to develop talent and around the sort of practice you do. And it's called different things, from deliberate practice to deep practice. But what the general consensus is that mentally you can really only do between 3 to 4 hours of this, deliberate deep practice per day. And then mentally you're basically fatigued. And that's sort of when you start getting to a point where it's not particularly helpful anymore. And given that we're now, well, Maddie, you're not, but Steve and I are the other side of 50, physically we're in a position where, we're not, at our sort of strongest and most athletic that we've been in our lives. So both mentally and
it hurts
physically.
To say that, doesn't it?
It
does. You both look all right, Jen.
It hurts.
But I think that whole fatigue element is a really good point, and there comes a certain point where it's optimal, and anything past that is gets to be suboptimal.
Wasted effort, for sure.
Yeah. So it's tricky, but look, I think at the moment I feel like what I like is I've got these 3 things to work on, which is being the right distance from the ball, both in my stance and after I've hit it, but in particular in the stance, being the right distance from the ball, and it feels awkward, and it still feels awkward, and that's fine. It, mind you, slightly less awkward today than yesterday, but maybe I wasn't standing far enough away. I don't know. So there's that. The other one is the shoulder alignment, really trying to get that right as well before pulling the trigger. And then the third one is what we worked on with the length of the swing and completing the backswing. And funnily enough, like that's how do I even explain it? It's what feels to me like a steeper swing plane that enables me to have the room for my arms to move to get the club to parallel. On the normal kind of takeaway plane that I always use, I just physically can't get there. So I'd actually, and I think I was describing it to you, I felt like I was really throwing my arms away from my body to get the room to rotate around to get the club all the way to parallel. But even though obviously when we looked at the video that was not happening, but that's just what the feel was. So yeah, they're the 3 things, and that's a pathway forward. Those 3 things in themselves could take some time before we even move on to the next thing.
For sure. Yeah. Look, I think, I'd love to see you get to a spot where you're self-aligning yourself, and then we can just forget about it because you'll do it yourself, and then we'll just go on the next bit. But you're right, because we all do it. We all slip back into bad habits. I mean, I admitted that to you guys just a minute ago before we started this chat. I'm in the position where I'm really not staying down on the ball. I'm topping it every now and again, and I don't know where it's come from, and I'm trying my hardest to fix it, and the outcomes are not reflective of what my effort that I'm trying to put in is. So I'm trying to stay down on the ball, and I'm still hitting it a little thin. So it's even though you're putting the focus and effort on trying to do that one thing that you're doing wrong, it takes a while to develop that muscle memory, and that just making it feel like it's comfortable and it's part of your swing, and it's just the normality. So, but it'll come. You just gotta bide your time. Rome wasn't built in a day.
No, it's true. And I mean, look, it's a path. It's a path to travel. I have no doubt that it's the right path, and as a result of that, I'm totally committed to making the changes stick. Because, I think the worst thing that you can do is to put a toe in the water, but then go, I'll do it in practice, but I'm not going to do it when I play a game, and I'll do it a bit here, but I'm not going to do it over here. That just is not going to work. So I think it's got to be all in, chips all in on the table. We'll go down this path, and I can see already the green shoots of benefit that are coming out of making those changes. So I've got no doubt that once I can groove that in and make it feel natural and be able to react athletically with that swing, that it will definitely work. So we're on the path, and it'll be really interesting to see how long that takes to, kind of work into the swing to a point where I go, like, that's my golf swing. That's how I approach it. That's where I stand. That's what I do. Yeah.
One of the little keys that I try to use quite often, and it might help you with your setup, is maybe just having a little marker. So measure how far you need to be from the toes to the ball, and maybe you can do it with Matt, whatever that optimal distance is, and then maybe have a little marker, whether it be a tee or something on the ground, where you can actually have an alignment. Okay, well, this is how far I need to be from the ball, so that you know, even when Matt's not there, that you're getting it right. Because you mentioned that potentially you could be creeping close to the ball again. Well, for me, you need some sort of marker and something there to be able to, those checks and balances to make sure that you're standing the right distance from the ball.
It's a great suggestion. And I think how you were showing me, Matt, your little chart with all your distances with every club. Now imagine if instead of the distance you hit it, we have those are the distances you stand away from the ball with every club, and then you get out on the course, comp day, pull out the tape measure.
What are you doing, Steve? Just measuring how far I am
just
away
measuring
from the ball?
Yeah, how far my toes need to be from the ball. What are we here? Oh, I'm a 9-iron, so I'm about 110 centimeters at this point.
Well, you could be like a fast bowler, right? Where you
put the marker down,
you measure it, and put the marker down, like where you're going to put your front foot.
Is that legal? I feel like you're probably not allowed to do that.
Maybe.
Not. Almost like that conversation we had in the Facebook group. Did either of you gents catch that one the other day?
Yeah, that was a cracker.
My father had a gentleman that he was playing golf with, and he put a shot just before a bunker, and went, oh geez, this next shot is destined to end up in the bunker, so I'll go and rake it first and make it nice and perfect, so that when I hit the shot in the bunker, it's a good lie. And I was like, well, that you've just failed at your mental approach to golf there to start with. But it made me think maybe I should be towing a lawnmower behind my golf cart so I can mow the rough before I hit my drives, because it's destined to end up in the rough. But
I don't know. We have a golf official as a pilgrim.
Yeah, he dived in. Yeah, Pilgrim Pete.
Yes.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Well,
yeah, he gave us the rules, and but he pretty much said yes, no, it is improving the line toward the hole, so no, it's not okay.
it was actually the same rule that Bryson was found guilty of breaching at the Open.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, just slightly different interpretation.
Stomping on some grass rule. We did actually have some good friendly conversation actually in there by a new pilgrim, Matthew Brown, as well. So
yes,
it was good to see them to and fro about it as well. So,
it was good because I don't know that Brownie would know Pete's background and the fact that he is actually a New South Wales golf official.
No, that's right. I definitely don't think he did. But no, it was good to see the discussion anyway.
Yeah, no, it was amazing.
Yeah, but coming back to my sort of checks and balances idea, that was purely in the high performance center. Strangely enough, that I was making that suggestion.
You're
not necessarily in a comp round.
Because I was going to take it even further and imagine if you bring the whole template out and like you lay that like a nice big canvas next to the ball where you've got your feet markers for each club.
They actually do that, and then they've got they like the alignment rods that are on the angle that come out to keep your club like below on the right swing plane.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
carry one of those around with you.
Yeah, well, you definitely. I do know that you definitely can't use alignment aids out on the golf course in competition, so we won't be doing that. No, we won't be doing any of that. Let's be perfectly honest. That it would be absolutely ridiculous, but it's funny to imagine.
No, high performance center only.
Yeah,
was my suggestion.
But no, and it's a good one because I think they're the two to me that I could be practicing a lot, but if I'm not actually practicing it right, then how much is that going to help? So there's that one, and the shoulder alignment. I think at the moment, just based on how incorrect I was last night with feel versus real, that I don't think there's any way that I'm probably getting it right yet. But that's for us to continue to work on, and at least I guess being aware of it and trying to square it up deliberately is a step forward of not being aware and still remaining open. So and I suppose as well the ball flight will probably tell a story too. So
also try putting a club across your shoulders and trying to line it up with the alignment rod. So that's the other one that I use as well.
Yeah.
And Andy, you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. To be fair, I didn't throw those sort of tidbits at Steve last night. We were sort of trying to figure out exactly whether or not that would actually fix it, and then we'd probably spent a fair bit of time doing it all. But 100%.
I think you should throw as much information as what you possibly can Steve's way and see how he deals with it. There's nothing like a bit of paralysis by analysis.
We did have that conversation. We said exactly that. We said exactly that.
That's literally what I said to him. I said, mate, I can give you too much to do all at once, and then all of a sudden you've forgotten everything. But yes,
I can handle three things.
Right.
I can handle three things.
You're right, Andy. Maybe you should be a real guinea pig, and I'll just throw everything at him all at once and see what happens.
Play right-handed.
Putt right-handed.
We've been down that far.
Your stats tell me.
The Putt Lab stats. They say
stats don't lie.
All the way.
Stats don't lie. Sometimes they can be slightly misguiding, but they don't lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, hey, maybe I'll bring back out the suggestion to have two putters in your bag.
I did it for 9 holes. I did do it for 9 holes.
That's quality. That honestly is a quality suggestion. That the two putters are left and right-handed, depending on which way
side of the hole you're
break's going. Yeah, that's gold.
Yeah.
Hey.
Nothing says head case quite like that.
I don't know. It could just elevate you to a stratospheric level and just take your game to the moon. But anyway.
But what happens? What happens if one way you like to see the ball curving kind of back towards you, and the other way you like to see sliders? So effectively, you're using both putters for the same putt. So that would be
whatever works. So
and then for the other break, neither putter works. Anyway, I feel like that's a little bit off topic, but that's fine. That's what we do.
That's unlike us to go down a tangent.
I know. It's supposed to be my job to prevent that from happening, but it rarely works. I think from this point on, really, the question is, where to from here? We've had one good, really good practice session. We've identified a couple of things. I'm going to go on and continue to work on them. Obviously, we're going to try and have a hit next week and see how that works. Very early days, so zero expectations out in the real world. And then what?
Look, it depends on what happens, really. I mean, it depends on, whether or not you are setting up and addressing and then hitting a better shot from that. We might, for instance, go, okay, that's cool. Let's leave that, park that for a little while. And then let's talk about, because obviously being seasonal and stuff like that, let's talk about course management, or let's go talk about, what shot would you hit in this situation, and what shot would you hit in the other situation. I mean, I think shot selection is probably, if not the most important thing about a shot that may not have gone to plan, than anything else in your game. So I'm very, very keen to dive into that, because there are so many different ways you can approach it.
Yeah, I do think that's a big one. And I'm not going to necessarily say it's what I feel is a massive weakness, because I think part of how I improved a bit in the last 5 or 6 years was making some better decisions, and certainly when you get out of position, making some better decisions to get the ball back in play and not trying to play low percentage hero shots. I feel like, though, what I don't really have is much variation in my ability to play different shots that might be required. And, Andy did give me some good tips at one point around, the low punch shot out from the trees, which was something I could never do because I just didn't know the technique. And then trying that's actually been super helpful. Unfortunately, I use it too often.
We do get familiar. Yeah,
tells a different story, particularly at rounds down at Duntry. But I think that conversation, that's going to be a really interesting one, and get stuck into that in some practice rounds would be really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the course management side of it, there's a balance there, that there's got to be some structure and some framework there, but it's also very individual. And I think when I caddied for you, Steve, I remember going down the seventh hole, and there was the second shot which you hit a shot which I just didn't see, but you understood that you had that in your bag and you were very confident to be able to hit that shot.
That was pretty funny.
Straight after that, the next shot, we got up there and I said to you, how much do you trust me?
Yeah.
And you looked at me as if to say, not very much. But I then pulled the 8-iron out and said, I want you to just hit a little knockdown, put it back in your stance and hit this half little knockdown 8-iron. And we ended up sort of, getting up close to the flag, making the putt and making birdie. So I think that there's a balance there, that you've still got to see the shots that you're hitting. But I think Matt's going to give you a lot in regards to seeing shots that you are able to hit that you just don't see at this point in time.
For sure. And that's exciting. That's a cool thing, because you're right though. Like there are certain shots that you go, I feel comfortable, I can pull this off, and I'm going to give it a crack. And whereas someone else can stand there and go, you're a madman. You just don't do that. And then there's others where they'll go, this is an easy gap, like punch it through here, this is what we're going to do. And you go, I actually don't feel comfortable trying that at all. I'm going out sideways. So, I think you're right. It's not one size fits all the time.
Andy, you just touched on a topic there that Steve admitted to me last night that he just does not have in his game, and that is backing off. I said, let's say it's percentage-wise, right? When you're going to hit a shot, what's your club selection like? Are you let's say it's 150 and you hit your 8-iron, 145. Are you, I need to drop back a club and then hit it 70, 80%, or are you, oh no, I'm going to smack the hell out of that 8-iron to try to get it there at 150. So I think that is, I know that Steve is very, he looks inside himself and says, okay, no, I know how far I can hit it and I know how far I don't hit it. So I don't think there's an ego that comes into it there. I just think it's a very, very good technique to have, to be able to back off on a club and know how far you're going to hit that. So yeah, hitting your 65, 70% sort of, iron shots into greens rather than that full 100%.
I struggle with that. I really do.
Yeah. It's hard, man. Like it's really, really difficult to get the hang of.
Yeah.
But it's worth its weight in gold when you do.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a thing for us to work on for sure, because I do struggle to do that.
I would say 90% of the time, I'll drop back and hit a long club. If I'm in between clubs, I'll drop back and hit the longer club at sort of 80% rather than try and push the shorter club. And that may also be part to do with the fact that I played at New South Wales Golf Club for quite a few years, and in the wind, you need to take spin off the golf ball in order to be able to deal with wind, especially when it gets up and ends up sort of 40, 50 kilometers an hour. Like, that's really tough to play full shots and with full spin in those sorts of conditions. So it might be that I spent so much time hitting those shots that I'm more comfortable now hitting those shots. But it certainly, as I said, probably 90% of the time I'll drop it back rather than try and push a club a little bit further.
I wouldn't say I'm 90. I'd probably say I'm sort of 70-ish% of the time I want to hit that, that club less. But I would say that because it's been like we've had a fair old sort of wet spell, I think, well, probably across New South Wales for the last maybe 6 months, and the greens being so damp means that you're getting a ton of spin, right? So I'm the same. And Steve, you will definitely find this as a problem the faster your swing speed gets, or, the further you're hitting balls, because you're going to be getting that purchase on the ball and getting nip. So when you're spinning it on greens, you're trying to reduce that and trying to get the ball to stop where it lands. And I found myself, with a Pro V1 golf ball hitting, a sand wedge, for instance, 60 meters into a green, and then just sucking it from the back straight off the front. And you go, well, hang on, okay, I need to go back. I need to take a 52, or I need to take even back to a pitching wedge and learn how to hit those 40%, 50%, 60%, all of those sort of, generalized shots. So I agree with you, Andy, but I really do think that is situational. But you need to have it in your golf game. You need to be able to back off.
So what you're saying, when we go and play in the Masters and the US Open, getting that spin is going to be very beneficial. Of course, it's very hard, fast greens.
100%. Yep.
Absolute clown.
When we're playing in the Missing Links Masters.
Yeah, mate, that's more likely. Yeah. That's about all it's going to be. Actually, we do need to organise another one of those. That's another topic for discussion. But at an hour and 10 minutes into this episode, I don't think that's a conversation for now. But no, that's been awesome. It's such a good conversation, because it was a cool process. I feel like I came out of it with so much more value than I have done in any other coaching session that I've had with, qualified golf pros that work at golf clubs and do it for a living. So massive kudos to you.
Words, mate. Thank you.
No, and honestly, it's every one of those words is true. The effort that you put in, I really, really appreciate it. And I think that the only way that I can repay that is actually do the work in my own time to try and put it into practice, right? Like, because you put a lot of effort into it, and if I don't match that, then I feel like I'm letting you down a little bit. So that's the commitment. We'll definitely keep the Pilgrims up to speed with how things progress. There is every chance that things get ugly before they get beautiful, but we will see how that transpires. might be a little bit of foreshadowing into a new piece of golf rock for the end of the episode there, boys, but neither of you know about that just yet.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So that's where we're at. We're going to have a hit next week. We'll let everybody know how that goes. We might even capture a little bit of footage, a little bit of audio around the course. Yep. You never know your luck. And see how we go. But Matty Woodbridge, thanks for coming back on the show. Amazing to have you. Don't think it's going to be the last time.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. Great job.
Yeah, I feel like this might end up being a regular piece, Matty. Yeah. It's good to have you back.
Oh, very very kind. Thank you.
And if we do manage to get your coach on the show at some point in the future, Andy Walker, then maybe we've all of a sudden got a 4-ball and we get everyone on the show at once.
Excellent.
And talk about it.
We'll have a coach off.
That'd be cool.
So that'd be really fun. No, I actually think it's cool. We have not done this before in this pilgrimage. We've not gone down this path of like really going into a deep development process. I think it's a really, really cool thing to do. I think we'll learn a lot out of it, but I also feel like the pilgrims are going to get a lot out of it as well from listening to how things go. And, maybe just from listening to things, it kind of sparks a bit of thinking in your own game about some things to work on. Obviously, any advice is not specifically for anyone in particular, but if things get you thinking in different ways, it's always a good thing, right?
Yeah, and I'm in no way, shape or form really. I'm not a professional or anything like that. I'm just an average Joe Blow that, happens to be okay at golf, and I'm just sharing, the knowledge that I've got over the years onto Steve. So, I mean, I admitted this to you, Steve. I feel like sometimes, I've got a very, very much of an imposter syndrome. I don't feel like I'm good enough to be able to teach you, but I think knowledge is knowledge, right? And whatever I can impart on you to give you things to think about, I think is worth its weight in gold. So,
100%. Imposter syndrome is real. We all have it in various parts of our life, and it's definitely going to be a bigger topic that we tackle in another episode as well. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. We've had a couple of discussions about that in the last couple of days. So that could come up at some stage over the next few weeks.
Yes.
Awesome.
Stay tuned. All right, gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun. Pilgrims, hope you get something out of that. And as I said, we'll keep you posted on progress. But Andy Walker, before we wrap up, you've heard a lot of advice from other people tonight. Have you got any advice for the Pilgrims?
I do. Just one bit of advice left. Rock out, Pilgrims.
Another dawn, another bucket. The high performance center waits. Rubber mats and lonely echoes. Every pilgrim leaves something to break. Dressed up as enough, but every round kept whispering, there's another version of us. So I walk through those familiar doors where old swings come undone, searching for the missing links, one golf ball at a time, one by one. Launch monitor glowing blue, ghost replaying on a screen, trying to find tomorrow's golfer hidden inside today's routine. The range grows quiet after sunset, the buckets empty one by one. Every answer bursts another question. Before the day's work is done, they all say, go back to what you know. Coach just smiles and lets it be. Sometimes the road gets uglier before it sets you free. trust. The high-performance center became more than walls and light. It was somewhere broken golfers learned to keep another fight. First tee feels like Judgment Day. Heartbeat louder than the crowd. Then one strike cuts through the morning like a prayer spoken out loud. Just enough to keep believing when belief is wearing thin. The missing links weren't in my swing. They'd been buried deep within. When 7-iron climbed forever, like it finally knew my name. Didn't cheer or raise my hands, I just smiled into the rain. Then I knew this road was never only chasing better scores. Every bucket, every setback had been opening different doors. I thought I came to build a golf swing. I came to rebuild myself. It was ugly before it was beautiful, ugly before it was whole. Every masterpiece needs breaking before the artist finds the soul. It was ugly before it was beautiful. That's the truth the journey brings. I thought I came to find a golf swing. I found the missing links. I found the missing links. The high-performance center stands behind me, moaning, waiting just the same. Another bucket, another lesson, another chance to earn my name. Because beautiful things are never found. The forge